Three, two. Welcome to another episode of Million Dollar Stories, where we get to interview authors from all over the world. Now, if you're looking to write a book out there, check out dreamstarterspublishing.com. We can help you get your book from idea to finished product. And if you already have a book, check out Book Marketing CRM. You can use it to put your business on autopilot, generate leads. Anybody interested in your book can be converted into potential clients. And speaking of getting more clients, more business, more revenue, this podcast is for you, especially if you're a contractor out there. Now, I tell this story quite a bit. I was driving to Somerset, Pennsylvania from Pittsburgh to pick up a motorcycle, and I needed an audiobook. And the one audiobook that was on the top of my mind was Profit First. So I put it on, and the moment I got back from picking up that motorcycle, I set up multiple bank accounts, and I've been doing it ever since. The Profit First technique. This podcast is specifically for contractors. So if you're a contractor out there, just pull up a chair, grab a coffee, and listen to this one. The book we're talking about is Profit First for Contractors. Transform your construction business from a cash-eating monster to a money-making machine. We have the author here with us today, Shawn Van Dyke. Thanks so much for being here, sir.
Mike, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Well, let's start off with the genesis of this book. Now, everybody, I think, in my circle has heard of Profit First, but he was able to maybe reach out to individuals like yourself who are experts in a specific field and then break it down and make it very niche. So therefore, the language is very targeted and it's much more beneficial. So how did this all happen?
Yeah, I wish that I could say that I had this master plan and that I was really smart and I thought, ooh, this is a strategy I want to execute on. But like most entrepreneurs out there, I've just stumbled my way through most business stuff, and especially the book. So the quick backstory is that I've been coaching contractors for a few years. It started in 2016. And as my wife says, I quit my real job and started doing this thing, and was just consuming a lot of books. I'd been a fan of Mike Michalowicz's books and his whole entrepreneurial mindset for several years. So picked up Profit First and started reading it. And I just thought, man, this is exactly how I teach contractors how to look at their money. Because I'm not necessarily a financial guy. I'm not a CPA. I'm just a nerd for numbers. I'm an operations guy. And I tell the story in the book that I got hit with a big tax bill when I had my construction company, had a conversation with my accountant, and I was just like, where's the money going to come from? And he said, oh, you owe this much. And so I just did the quick math, and I don't remember exactly what the number was, but let's say it's $40,000 tax bill and got $1 million in revenue. I was like, oh, well, that's 4%. So I need to stick 4% of every dollar that comes in into a tax account or into another bank account, because I don't want to have this problem next year. And my CPA was like, well, that's not how you calculate your taxes. I was like, well, yeah, but you're telling me I owe 40,000. I took in $1 million. It's pretty simple math. He's like, no, that's not how you do it. So I did that anyway. So the next year went through and he said, hey, I got some bad news. You got like an $8,000 tax bill. And I was like, that's awesome. He's like,
You
what do you
win.
mean? I was like, I've got 15 sitting in the bank account ready to go. So I can pay that 8. And it sounds like I've got a chunk of my first quarter taxes, for next year. And again, he was like, well, that's not how you calculate your taxes. I was like, yeah, but this way was a lot easier to get my tax bill paid. So anyway, I had experienced that. Didn't know what I was really doing. A couple of years later, I'm reading Mike's book, and he's describing this same sort of method of how you view the cash in your business and setting up the different bank accounts. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is kind of how I teach contractors to look at their finances. So I just kind of went down the Mike Michalowicz and Profit First rabbit hole. Being a business coach myself, I'm a sucker for other coaches. So I went and signed up for his program because I thought, I want to teach this and I want to be certified in his method. I don't want to just, read his book and say, hey, I'm doing this thing. I wanted to go through his process. So signed up for his program, working with the coach, and was, a couple of months into it as I was going through my certification. And I just happened to say to my coach, hey, Mike should write a book for contractors. He would have to change some of the language because, Profit First is written in general for businesses, but contractors especially have some specific language, like materials and subcontractors mean something very specific to a contractor versus, general business. Anyway, I mentioned that to my coach, and my coach said, well, you should write the book. And I was like, what do you mean write the book? Like, you should write the book for contractors. I was like, can I do that? Is that legal? And he was like, yeah, Mike has a licensing program that he's working with other entrepreneurs in different industries, and you can get into that program. He'll work through the details. And I was like, okay, sounds cool. So there I was a couple weeks later on a Zoom call with one of my business mentors, even though I'd never met him in person, and worked out the details. And I remember I walked out of the office that day and I told my wife, I was like, babe, I think I got a book deal. And she was like, what book? And I was like, Profit First for Contractors. And she was like, is that legal? And I was like, I don't know, but Mike said I could do it. So basically what it was what's called a derivative license. And so I worked with Mike over the coming months to take the Profit First system and write the contractor's version of that. And for me, the idea was, I never thought that anybody would actually buy the book. But if you have a book, I also do a lot of speaking. Having a book, helps a lot with landing speaking gigs, because a lot of people that book speaking gigs, one week it might be a contractor's event, the next week it's underwater basket weaving. So they're these event companies that have to staff these things. They're just, construction industry speaker. Oh, I pop up, he's got a book. Cool, let's call him. Like, the book was just an avenue to hopefully land more speaking gigs. But then I thought, well, if anybody actually reads it, I want it to be good, but I had no intentions of it becoming the thing. It was really just to land speaking gigs. And then I wrote the book in 90 days, built a landing page for it. And it was getting down towards the end of the year. And I actually, uploaded it to Amazon. So it's print on demand.
Love it.
And then it was Christmas Eve when I turned everything on, just because we were visiting friends and family in Nashville, just sitting around the hotel room waiting for Christmas Day. And I thought, okay, I've got the last of the email campaign and all of that stuff on the back end. Let me just turn this thing on and we'll get on to Christmas tomorrow and have fun. Didn't even think anything about it. And then Christmas Day, we're sitting around and after we've opened the gifts, I'm looking on Amazon, make sure everything's firing. And I see this notification, Profit First for Contractors, #1 new release in finance or whatever. And I told my whole family, I was like, everybody get out your cell phones, take a screenshot of this. And what I figured out was, most real authors, most good authors, they want their books in people's hands for Thanksgiving and Christmas, right?
Right.
So they're promoting and doing all August, September to get, get Black Friday and all that kind of stuff. Well, jokers like me that have no plan and stumble their way through things, start selling their book on Christmas Eve. And the only thing that I can figure out is nobody else was launching a book on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve.
No.
So if you get a couple of dozen people to buy your book and no one else is really, buying books, it's real easy to shoot up to #1 status pretty quickly. So I told everybody, I was like, this is probably only going to last like 24 hours. I think I sold 200 copies or something in the first day or so. I knew it wasn't going to last, but once you get that #1 hot new release, it can last for. And so here we are, it's 6-8 years later or whatever, and you still promote it like, hey, Profit First for Contractors, Amazon's #1 new release. I don't recommend that to anybody, but that was my strategy that I stumbled upon was, hey, launch a book on Christmas Eve, because no one else is going to be selling their books on Christmas Day. And if you have a little bit of a following, and 10 people buy your book, it may look like you know what you're doing.
And you're speaking our language. The power of a book is absolutely real. We have done about 340 bestseller pushes, and I tell all my clients, do not do a bestseller push in December. This is like a golden rule, just so you know, because you are going up against major competition. And then what you're saying, though, is real, right? Nobody's buying on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. So that does open the door. I like that philosophy, I'll be honest.
Well, I think I just, like a lot of things in business, you get, you got to be lucky And so I had, pretty good following on Instagram. And so I'd send it out, basically just, I think put on a story or a post or something, say, hey, by the way, Merry Christmas. The book's now available. Because I've been talking about it a little bit, but certainly not a launch plan like, most people do. I just happened to say like, hey, you can go get it. And I think like I said, a few dozen people were sitting around on Christmas morning, just like I was, saying like, oh yeah, let me go grab this book for 1995 or whatever. And again, it's not a strategy I would recommend. I don't know if I could repeat that again, but I think that that's what worked for me.
You said the phrase stumbling your way through it. Man, is that entrepreneurship in a nutshell or what? Nobody has all the answers. I've been around multi-millionaires, and even them, they are still stumbling their way through it. And it's basically how you respond whenever shit doesn't happen the right way. So I'm with you on that. And that's half the fun, right? You don't want the adventure to be predetermined. You want it to be as a surprise, very much like American Gladiators. You don't know what's on the other side of that door. And I think that's half the fun. So you do have something in the book, and it says, are you stuck in the craftsman cycle? And I've met many contractors. I was a landlord for many years. And I'm just going to read off a few things here. So see if
Sure.
this sounds like you guys out there. You're busy. You're booked for several months. You've been booked for several months, but you don't have any money. All right. That's one. Number two, you don't pay yourself a salary. Holy shit. Is that so common in this world or what? You don't understand the difference between markup and margin. I didn't. I know that whenever I first started. You were guessing at what your price should be instead of calculating your value. Holy shit. That's a game changer once you realize that. You get most of the work you look at a high closing rate, and you fear saying no to projects, saying yes to everything. Wow. You tell yourself you are investing in your company when you can't pay yourself. You don't know how to read your profit and loss statement. Sounds like my first 3 years.
Mhm.
You always seem to be behind the schedule, and you have to start the next job before you finish the current one. Wow, that can get you into serious trouble. And then you believe there are industry standards for what you can charge, and you provide a lot of free work to your potential customers. Yes, absolutely. Here's the most important one, I think, though. Number 10, paying your taxes is a mystery, and you depend on your CPA to tell you how much you owe. But what you did in the very beginning of this podcast is, I think, absolute gold, right? Take money right out of the gate, pay yourself first, pay your taxes, no surprises. You sleep well at night. And as Tony Robbins says, the quality of your life is based off of your quality of your thoughts and your relationships. I would add one more, the quality of your sleep. And if you sleep well, usually you can make great decisions. So all
Right.
of these 10 are very common in this world. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. Then we kind of lump all this stuff together and call it the craftsman cycle. So there's kind of 10 individual details. The way that we talk about it is especially for contractors, but I think it applies to anybody that's starting a business, is that you price work, you get work, you produce work, then you have to find work. And the price work is usually like, hey, maybe I've got, for contractors, I've been working in construction for a while. I don't like my job. I think I can do it better. That's great. But whatever you're being paid now, let's say it's, $50 an hour, and then you start doing some side work and you charge a little bit more than you're currently making. So let's say it's $65, $70 an hour. That's how you price the work. And you think, I'm pricing it at more than I'm getting paid now. And the problem with that is it's still probably too low because you're not aware of all of the costs that go into running a business, but you get some cash coming in. So you're like, cool, maybe I can do this. I'll start my own business. So it all starts by pricing work, and usually it's priced too low. And when you provide, especially when you provide high quality and good value and you're priced too low, then you go into the next phase of the cycle, which is you get a ton of work. So now we've priced it, we get a bunch of work, and then the third part happens is like, oh, we got to go produce all the work. That's when the money leaves the business. And then you're scrambling around. You've lost money, you've lost time. And then that fourth part kicks in. You're like, well, wait a minute, we got to fill this gap. I got to go look for work. But because time is so tight, money is so tight, you don't have the time to put systems in place. So you just do the thing you did before, price more work, which leads to getting to work, producing the work, finding the work. And some people stay trapped in this cycle forever. And the way to break out of that is really to understand how your profit and loss statement works, how your operations work. And one of the things that we teach a lot of our clients, and I see it all the time, is you cannot outwork the math of your business. It's just not possible. If the math doesn't work, doing more of that work never adds up. So you have to kind of hit the pause button and take a look and start doing the math of your business, understanding our business needs X amount in margin because we have to pay for our expenses, and we're in business, so we need to make a profit. And the math is really simple. I always tell contractors, if you can read a tape measure and add fractions in your head, you already know more complex math than your business requires. You just don't understand how to read that math on a profit and loss statement. But when you get clarity on that, then everything changes.
So I would assume what you did in the very beginning might have morphed a little bit now that you're coaching people to do the same. But is there a 1, 2, or 3 must-dos right out of the gate, whether it's setting up a bank account, getting QuickBooks in order, or being very diligent about looking at your profit and loss statement monthly and then transferring funds from your bank account into a tax account? What is I would say the quick notepad or napkin takeaway for our listeners?
Yeah, here's the easiest, or I should say the simplest thing to do. And it's so simple, it's virtually impossible not to do. But this is where it all starts. A lot of people, especially contractors, when they read the book, they understand their financials, they understand cash flow, they understand margin and markup a little bit better. And then obviously we give some examples of where your numbers should be percentage wise. They get really excited because for the first time they are looking at their cash a little bit different. And then they'll just jump right into the deep end and say, oh, I want to be 10% profitable. I set up a bank account. I'm going to go put 10% into that bank account. The problem with that is the money that you're looking at right now doesn't have that 10% cushion in there.
Right.
But people they'll want to be profitable. They start to understand it a little bit more, and then they go grab some money, stick it over there. And then they operate their business for a while. Cash gets really tight because that profit, that money they put in the profit account that they're not supposed to touch, they need it to operate the business. So they go back into the profit account, pull it back into the business. And that's a really bad habit. So the simplest thing to do is, and this is what we talk about in the book, go set up a profit account at your bank, checking, savings. I don't care what it is. Doesn't really matter. Take 1% of your bank balance now and go stick it in that account and don't touch it. It's just 1%. You're not going to miss it. Your business wants to chew up every dollar that you have in that bank account. So we just want to set 1% aside, and you got 99% of that bank balance left to operate your business. It's not going to affect anything. And then just do that going forward. No, I mean, we talk about other bank accounts in the whole system, but that one simple thing, profit account, put 1% over there, and then just don't touch it. And then the next time you get some money in, another 1% goes over there. You're not going to miss any of that. And then 3-6 months down the road, you're going to glance at that bank account, that profit account, and be like, oh, there's some money over there, and it's free and clear. Like, we're still operating the business. There's money over there. And when you do that small 1%, then say, okay, we probably have to pay some taxes. And the 1% worked. Let's go set up a tax account and do 1% over there. And then let's just forget about it and go back to running our business. And then 3 months, 6 months down the road, you look and be like, 1% wasn't very painful. Let me grab another 1%. So now we're putting 2% in profit, 2% in tax. And then another 3 months go by, and you're like, I didn't miss that either. And then you just keep doing that 1%. Your business is going to tell you exactly how much money you've got. And sometimes it gets around to 3%. If we have 3% in profit, 3% in tax, that's 6% of the total dollars that are coming in. Sometimes right around there, you're going to be like, ooh, things are getting tight over here. Well, that tells you exactly what you need to work on in your business. And then we're talking 6 months, 9 months down the road of just doing this simple thing. You're going to charge more for your work. Now you've got some time, you're going to dig in and start learning about the profit and loss statement. How do the numbers work? You're going to start saying no to the wrong clients and yes to the right clients. So those little percentages, and that's why I love percentages. I can take 1% of $100 and it's $1, right? But if I'm charging $150 for a thing now because I've changed the way I operate, well, 1% is actually going to be $1.50. It's more money, even though the percentage is the same. So you start playing and you start looking at your business in percentages, and you're able to see very simply how the business works. So that's why I always tell people, before you jump into the deep end of profit first, just go set up a bank account, put 1% of your bank balance now into that account. And then every dollar you receive, just put 1% over there. And then you'll see after 3 months, that didn't hurt. Go do it again. Another percentage, another percentage, another percentage. Eventually your business will tell you, hey, we don't have any more money to stick over here. You got bills to pay. But while you're doing that and you see that cash build up without doing anything, you're like, how much more could I? Like, I always say this too, like, hey, we got 3% sticking over there. If you're a contractor, let's say you have a, you got a project that's $100,000. It becomes really simple to say, you know what? I'm going to charge them $103,000. It's just a 3% difference. And if they weren't going to buy from you at 103,000, they were never going to buy from you at 100,000. So you might as well sell the heck out of it. And when someone says, yeah, cool, let's do the thing. And you realize, like, I would have sold this for $100,000 before. I just added a couple of percentages. Now you get that $103,000. That money can go straight into the accounts, and you're off to the sun, riding off into the sunset.
Man, that's great advice. And what you said in the very beginning, it does hit home, because when contractors do work, I'm assuming most people listening out there right now they have a contracting business, but the first lump sum usually goes to materials, right? So they're going to say, I can't do 5% or 10%, but maybe they can do 1%, right? It makes it manageable. These are bite-sized chunks. It's digestible, and it starts to create that muscle that wasn't there before. So it's really applying a technique and creating a habit that will serve them in the future. But getting started is half the battle. And the fact that they have no account for profit or for taxes, this is a big change. But 1%, I don't think that seems too daunting.
Yeah. And the thing about the whole bank accounts and the system and the financial part of it, a lot of people get really scared around that because they'll say, oh, I'm not a financial person. I'm not in it for the money. And I say, hey, if you own a business, especially contractors, you should be in it for the money. Like money is I think Warren Buffett says this, money or profit is a measure of effectiveness. The more effective you are, the more money you're going to make. But a lot of contractors, a lot of entrepreneurs, we want to serve our clients. We want to provide value. And sometimes we can feel a little bit icky of like, I don't want to charge them too much. Don't worry. It's about providing value and experience. That's the only reason anybody buys anything from you, is for the value that they get, not the price that they pay. And if someone's like stuck on, like, I don't know if I can do the bank accounts or all this financial stuff, I say the profit first method has more to do with basic human psychology and the human brain than it does finances. And the example I use is we all do this in the bathroom in the morning. So you go into the bathroom, you go to brush your teeth. If you have a full tube of toothpaste, you just grab the toothpaste, you squeeze and go, and you brush your teeth and you're on with the day, right? So Mike, what happens when you run out of toothpaste?
Oh man, I'm starting to get very resourceful, right? I get crazy resourceful with that last tube of toothpaste. Now, I will start to say in my mind, I need to go out and buy more, but let's really push it to the max. Am I right?
That's right. So I find there's like 3 types of people in the world. You have your rollers, right? So they roll up the tube from the bottom and they squeeze some more out with their thumb. Then we have the ironers, where you smash it on the countertop, take the toothbrush and you iron it out and get that little bit more. Or the third type of person is what I call MacGyvers. I always have a pocket knife with me. So I've cut the tube of toothpaste open, shoved my toothbrush down there and got that little bit more left. And that's the thing. That's what I'm saying is, in those mornings when you're quote unquote out of toothpaste, you get frugal and you get innovative, meaning you get by on less toothpaste and you figure out new ways to get toothpaste out of the tube. And that amount of toothpaste that you use in that situation is enough to get by. So if that's enough to get by, that's what you should be using every day. But our brains will go into, we got a full tube, we'll squeeze and go. And it's actually called the law of induced demand, or Parkinson's law. So the way that applies to your bank account, I got all my money in one bank account, one big tube of toothpaste. So when I look at it and there's money there, I squeeze and go, meaning like, oh, I can spend some money. Then when I run out of money, when there isn't much, I put a spending freeze on, I figure out how to get more money coming in, and I change the way that I operate, and it's enough to get by. And if that enough to get by is how we can operate, then we should operate that way all the time. So setting up the bank accounts is like purposefully making smaller tubes of toothpaste so we can't just squeeze the business and go. And it also prevents us from riding an emotional roller coaster to say like, oh, I've got money, now I can spend it. Oh crap, I don't have money, life sucks. So we can say, oh, for example, the operations account is pretty tight. I need to go operate differently, but I got a full tube of toothpaste over here. My profit and my taxes are funded. I don't have to worry about that. I just need to worry about operating a little bit differently. But I got profit, I got taxes, even got my own salary, the owner's compensation. I got that taken care of. I don't have to steal from the other parts of the company because they're all separate in these bank accounts. And I can glance at my bank accounts and know exactly where I'm at without calling my CPA, without having my bookkeeper run a profit and loss statement, because the bank account tells the real story. I either have money or I don't. I've either got money in my profit account and it's working, or I don't. I either am operating a good business, or my operation expense is really low and I got to go do something. So at a glance, without having to look at a financial report or call somebody with letters after your name, you can see exactly where your business is.
And you make me think of my dad, even Dial hand soap, right? Where you push down the hand soap and it comes out. I would always go over there, and I still do to this day. And when it gets low, he just, unscrews the cap, fills it up with water. All right,
Yeah.
we got enough for a while, right?
Yeah, that's
So
what I always tell people. Like, hey, if the toothpaste example, if you're like, no, I'm more sophisticated than that, I wouldn't, cut the top off the toothpaste. I always say you do it with the shampoo bottle or the roll of toilet paper,
damn right, yeah.
but we don't need to go there, right?
Oh man. So yeah, being resourceful, man. I think it always is a matter of resourcefulness rather than the amount of resources. Another Tony Robbins quote.
Yeah.
But whenever you look at your profit and loss, I'm trying to get way better at this. I was doing every, quarter, even every 6 months. And now I'm trying to do once a month. How often are you looking at it? And I think there are many geniuses that I pay attention to. They say they look at their bank account and profit and loss pretty much on a day-to-day basis. So I don't know if I can get to that just yet. I'm only 7, 8 years in business, and so I think I'm getting more refined. And maybe this is just a muscle you develop as time goes on. You become more efficient, but you have more free time to focus on the numbers and the nitty-gritty details. So, how often do you look at it? What do you recommend to contractors?
Yeah, I would look at, so I'll start back with the bank accounts. I'll look at my bank account once a day, even, at least once a week, right? Because
Okay.
that's telling the real story. And even Alex Hormozy says that. He's like, hey, if you want to develop some good habits around money, don't check social media every day. The first thing you do when you wake up is check your bank balance. But as far as the profit and loss is concerned, at least from a contractor's perspective, your bookkeeper, whoever's reconciling and categorizing those transactions, it needs to be a weekly thing. It's got to stay organized and up to date on a weekly basis. From a business owner's perspective, I probably want to know money in and money out on a week to week basis. And then I want to run some high level reporting on a monthly basis, because the weeks add up to months, months add up to quarters. And the quarterly, that's where I'm doing a little bit deeper analysis, looking at certain KPIs. And based on what I'm seeing there, I want to do projections. So in general, somebody, not the business owner, needs to be in the P&L or in the books week to week, so that the monthly numbers make sense and you're not surprised, if that makes sense. So if you're the business owner out there, there's not much that's gonna change that you're gonna find out week to week by looking at the profit and loss statement. So I don't recommend necessarily that. I would look at bank balances once a week. We got
Yeah.
money coming in, and is it going out? But somebody needs to be processing the numbers weekly so that I can have an accurate picture monthly to know, hey, are there any gaps? What do we need to do over the next few weeks? And then those strategies and tactics that I'm doing on a monthly basis, I'm executing on that at a quarterly basis, so I can set out 6 month goal. So get somebody doing the day-to-day, week-to-week stuff, so that I'm dropping in once a month, so I can start looking at, are there any gaps, and do some, what I say, predictive analysis. And then business is a game. Hey, we had whatever our monthly numbers were this month. What can we make them next month? And make it a game. How many leads do we need? How many people do we need to convert into prospects? What's the dollar value of the people, from a contractor's perspective? What's the dollar value of the conversation I had? I don't care whether or not they become a customer or not, but if people are calling me for $150,000 projects or $2 million houses, they may be crazy psychopath clients that I don't want to work with. But the value of that conversation gives me some important information to say, hey, we had $20 million worth of conversations this year, and it led to $4 million in revenue. Great. I want to know that number, because if it tells me that my marketing or what people think or hear about me, they're calling me up for $2 million projects or $20,000 projects, whatever it is. So those are the kind of numbers I want to take a look at, and those don't really exist in the profit and loss statement. That's the stuff that I'm looking at on a monthly and quarterly basis to be able to do some projections. But the P&L, the books are the heart of the business. That's where the core of the data is.
So weekly at the bare minimum, but obviously high level, make sure you focus on it once per month. And I think that's what I'm getting
Absolutely,
into. So,
yeah.
but looking at the bank, absolutely. I mean, I made it so it's mandatory for me to look at the bank every week. So
yeah, I'd look at the bank. You have my permission. Look at the bank account every day, because that tells the real story of the cash. But then as far as a financial report, I'm looking at them monthly.
And I wish, and I don't know if I can set this up, but maybe you have some type of program where it actually automates the 1%. I really am trying to find a system that does that. I'm in the PNC Bank system, so I don't know if you've ever heard of PNC Bank, but basically I manually have to do it, and just getting into that routine is pretty difficult. So do you automate it, or is this basically a transfer of money every month?
Yeah, I mean it can be a transfer of money. You just drop in there and run your percentages and do that. Now, I am affiliated with a new bank that's come out in the last couple of years. They're Relay Bank. So just let you know, hey, I'm an affiliate of them. But they actually went through and worked with Mike Michalowicz over the past couple of years to be a Profit First certified banking platform.
Wow.
So if you can go check out Relay Bank. And we use them in our business, and especially for contractors. They have all sorts of advantages, but on the back end, you can either do it manually, or you can set it up to automate, based on percentage or dollar value. You have 100% total control. So I couldn't recommend them highly enough. Wow. And they're an online banking platform. What's really cool is you sign up, you can transfer money from your existing bank into your Relay Bank account. And then especially for if you have employees, you can immediately issue virtual debit cards, and you can see it tracks everything on the back end. And they just also added receipt capture. So we just used it last week with some of my employees, went out to a quarterly lunch. I left my other card. I was like, oh, I need to use this card. I used my Relay card. Swiped it, and then 2 minutes later I get a text message that says, hey, remember, upload your receipt to here. So it's really, really great service. So, and it can be totally automated for them. So check out Relay Bank if you're looking to put this stuff on autopilot.
Excellent. And do you have any recommendations? Maybe you're an affiliate also when it comes to QuickBooks Online. All transactions going through one software program. I've heard of a few others, but the one I use is QuickBooks. So is there anything like that you recommend?
There's a lot of good ones out there for receipt capture and documentation. We have recently started offering bookkeeping services to contractors. So that's something brand new that we're just getting off the ground. And what we like, if someone doesn't have anything, what we like to use is HubDoc. So it's documentation control. They got an app you can upload from your desktop or whatever. So that's one of the ones that we use for tracking all the receipts and transactions and documentation control on the book side. And then for accounts payable, so this is money going out and getting bills paid and automating that, we like to use Bill.com.
Wow. Okay. I'm not familiar with either one of those. So Excellent. Guys, if you, I guess you're not affiliate. That's what you use within, I would
Yep, that's
assume,
yeah,
within
we
your Build to Build Academy. Is that right?
yeah, so the Built to Build Academy is our coaching programs. That's what I've been doing since that's what we launched back in 2016, 2017. And as we've gone through the years, again, being a business coach, people always, and after Profit First for Contractors came out, hey, can you recommend any bookkeepers? And I always recommend Profit First Professionals, the certified, bookkeepers that go through there. But then what we specialize in this new service that we're offering is what we call data management services. So it starts with the books, but like we talked about before, the monthly and the quarterly things, the data exists in the books, but there's other things outside of the books that can be pretty useful for a construction company. So we provide that the high level analysis and optimization of the numbers in our service called the Data Mule Agency. So we just think for most contractors, the books are a burden, and so that's where the name Data Mule comes from. Hey, we're the beasts of burden. We happen to be nerds for numbers. We love bookkeeping and analysis. Contractors, no offense, you suck at it and you hate it anyway. So
Boy, is that the
put it
truth.
on our backs. And those are some of the softwares that we have just found we like to use. We have some other clients that use different things. I don't really care what you use as long as 100% of it is documented, the inflow of data, and then the outflow of data. We just happen to use HubDoc and Bill.com on either sides of those for the inflow and outflow.
Man, it's the application of the who, not how philosophy. I'm assuming you've read that book. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, guys, if you're out there, focus on your strengths, right? Your contractors, you can build, you can develop, you can create, outsource your weaknesses, things that slow you down, things you don't even enjoy doing to the experts. And that sounds like exactly what you're offering to people. So, Build to Build Academy is your coaching program. And you have a website here, SeanVanDyke.com. What will they find there? Is it basically speaking opportunities? If you're looking to get on more podcasts, a way to reach out to you, what will they find on your website?
Yeah, so SeanVanDyke.com, that's where I do a lot of blogging. There's a lot of free resources and tools for construction business owners. Again, I'm a nerd for systems. I came from an operational background and got a couple of degrees in engineering. So if you want to know about systems, go to SeanVanDyke.com. That's where most of my blog posts and articles and things like that. And you can find different information about our products and our coaching programs there. But I spent a lot of time on Instagram. My kids like to give me a hard time. It's one of those things as you get to be a dad. I have 5 kids, by the way,
Jeez.
and they're embarrassed that, I don't know, I had 15, 17,000 followers on Instagram, and their friends give them a hard time because they're like, so, your dad's, got so many followers or whatever. They hate that. So whenever I go to pick them up at school, I've had a couple of their friends ask me to sign copy, like their high school friends, and went out and bought the book. And one kid like carried it around in his backpack. And when I met him, he was like, "Can you sign the copy of my book?" And it embarrasses my kids. And so it's really cool the fact that my Instagram is a tool to embarrass my children, which is what every good father should do, is finding new ways to embarrass their kids at school.
But also, you're sharing the message of thinking like an entrepreneur. It's something I say within my organization all the time. Think like an entrepreneur. And you're
Yeah.
preaching that message not only to your kids, but to your kids' friends. That is awesome, man. Get that out there.
Oh
More
yeah. Yeah.
entrepreneurs is what this world needs.
Absolutely.
And so, guys, look at his Instagram to see how he embarrasses his kids. It's Sean Van Dyke, easy to find. You're very, I guess you have a very easy to find name, Sean Van Dyke, across all platforms. So
Yeah,
look him
that's
up.
what I just type in Sean Van Dyke, and that's SHAWN, and you'll find all of ours. So we got a YouTube channel, Instagram, Twitter, all of the normal sort of stuff. But like if you want to reach out, hit me up on Instagram. Other than I do have a few automations. I'm a big nerd for automations. If you send me a message, I tell people like we have some automations plugged in there, but I read that stuff. It's me responding, other than a couple of lead magnets and some other things in there, which is pretty obvious when it's an automated message. But if you want to reach out to me, just hit me up on Instagram.
Yeah. Obviously, he has personality. He has the poster of one of the three that I think one of the only 3 Star Wars movies you need to see, right? I like that in the background there. So you got
Yeah.
good
So
you
we
got
got,
good taste. It's not one of the new ones, in my opinion. They're not worth it, but the
yeah,
old ones
that,
definitely.
yeah, that's right. Again, that was a gift from my oldest son. He just turned 18. I just turned 50 this year. And what's so special about that poster, although that even though it's really cool retro original Star Wars artwork, is that my 18-year-old bought it with his own money. So if anybody out there with teenagers, you go through those years where mom and dad aren't very cool. And the fact that he spent his own money on my 50th birthday gift, I was like, that's going to my office. That's pretty special.
That's great, man. Right next to the Dolly Parton, right?
Oh yeah,
That's
gotta have, yeah. I'm here in East Tennessee, so we can't see the top of that, but it's WWDD. What would Dolly do?
man, of all the people in this country, I think she's the most beloved. There's not a single person out there that says Dolly Parton, oh, I hate her, right? I
Oh yeah,
can't stand her.
well,
She never really got into politics. She did her own thing. She's so upbeat. If you look at all of her interviews from the 80s till now, I mean, she has the personality that she knows how to charm people. So
and
absolutely beloved.
you want to talk about an entrepreneur. I mean, she is legit. Like her business savvy and what she's been able to do with her multiple brands and just her name. She is. I mean, that's why I love her. That my wife has given me permission if I ever had a chance to go on a date with Dolly Parton. I'm free. I'm free and clear to do that.
She still has the looks. I don't know. She's in her
She is,
80s,
yeah.
maybe.
My
I don't
wife's
know.
like,
She still looks great.
she's like 70 something. I was like, babe, she's beautiful. If I ever get the chance to take Dolly Parton out on a date, I will not get in trouble. My wife and I have that agreement. So
That's your hall pass. That's
that
amazing, man.
that's my hall pass.
Oh, well, Sean, I have to say it's been an honor to talk with you. I love the message. I need to start applying that 1% technique, and that's something I'll share with my clients and potential $1 Million Circle members out there. So
Yep.
I appreciate you coming on and sharing everything with us. Oh, one last question. Outside of Profit First or even your own books, is there one that you recommend to our audience?
All right. Man, I read so many books, and maybe somebody else has recommended this. But I love Alex Hormozi's $100 million offers.
Yep.
It's one of the best frameworks that I don't know that there's anything new in it if you read any kind of sales books but the way that he puts it together and the frameworks he uses is one of the best reads, and it's a really quick read. It's very absorbable. So that would be top of my list. $100 million offers, and if I could throw one more in there, one of my favorite books of all time is Horst Schulze customer experience book. Horst Schulze was the president of I totally blanked on it now. Hotel chain. What was that? Ritz-Carlton. Sorry. Yeah. Ritz-Carlton. And he talks about how to deliver customer experience from a for a global company, the systems and the culture that it takes. And if anybody out there in the entrepreneurial world, it ultimately comes down to the experience, whether it's a product or a service that you're selling. It's the experience that the customer has with that will determine your success. And so that book by Horst Schulze it's great. And he's German, so if you listen to the audiobook, his accent is just awesome. So it's a lot of fun to listen to.
Well, when you talk about Alex Hormozi's book, I just, the one thing that stands out in that book to me was add a zero to your offer and it still makes sense. It should still make sense with that. And I'm like, wow, you know what? I've changed my pricing structure based off of that. So awesome book. I highly recommend it. I have not read the new one, $100 million sales or whatever it is, but
Yeah,
the
he's got
first
$100
one is
million
amazing.
offers, leads, and then $100 million sales is coming out. I don't know if it's out yet, but
Yeah, the offers. I really like that one. So
yeah.
great recommendation. Guys, look up his book, Profit First for Contractors. Transform your construction business from a cash-eating monster to a money-making machine. SeanVanDyke.com and obviously built2buildacademy.com. Easy to find on social media. Sean, thanks so much for being here, man.
Mike, thanks for having me.
Remember, guys, $1 million book will lead to $1 million life. Right on.